joining us from San Diego, California. He's 13-year-old. He's a middle schooler and very passionate about coding and programming in multiple languages. And when he is not coding, then he's playing video games and likes to spend time with friends. So Veer, welcome. Over to you.
Thank you. Dr. Akaraju Sharma is a MD, PhD, FAAFP, and late Mrs. Akaraju Kameswari Devi are residents of Philadelphia since 1970. Their India roots are in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, and Guntur and Nellore, Andhra Pradesh. He is closely involved with Hindu activities, where he chairs the Health and Human Services Committee. He initiated several poster programs of success in U.S. Diaspora, setting up the first Telugu Tamil associations in USA 1972. Nascent work on the National Telugu Association, DANA, the recurrence of donors to national marrow donor programs from 1991 to 2018. His roots are in academia and medicine for many years, rendering pro bono help to needy and helping many needy individuals. He is a recipient of several prestigious awards from Telugu Association, India Council of Philadelphia, Telugu Association of Delaware Valley, and Medal of Honor in 2016, which is awarded to a person that significantly contributes to not only adopted motherland USA, but also contributes to native India motherland. In addition, he is also a recipient of Lifetime Achievement PVSA Award from BSNA. The topic of today's presentation is History of South Asian Diaspora in the USA from the Languages Perspective. Thank you, and please welcome Dr. Akaraju Sharma.
Everybody, I'm from Pennsylvania, suburban Philadelphia, and I submit to you an article, and I think it's the joint authorship goes also with my wife. The description is on the paper. I had requested Sanjay Pandeyji to help me at two steps in this program. One is a little video clip from a Bing video on what diaspora is. And at the bottom of the page one, at the very bottom, is also another video clip about a program that the National Public Radio had done. What I'm going to do this afternoon, present to you in a very informal way, and you can request Pandeyji, Sanjay Pandeyji, to give a copy of my paper to you on requisition with no problems. What I am trying to convey today is that we have been immigrants in this country for a long time, but the turning point came around in 1965. And in the month of May, conventionally in the USA, marks the focus on the Asian Pacific American Indian Heritage Month. Now, that time is over. We are celebrating it in July with BSNA. The question is, what is diaspora and where the word started and how that means? I am assuming a lot of you know what diaspora is. However, to benefit all, a brief 1 minute on the diaspora origins and evolution, engagement, Bing video. This gives you a visual picture just for the education of everybody that the immigration and coming into this country, the USA, has taken place from a number of nations, and over a period of time, till the law changed in 1965, what was happening around was they gave the bulk of allotments to the European countries, and that quota for the European countries was never fulfilled, and what was not fulfilled was completely lapsed, and it went into zero, whereas the Asian countries and African countries have allotments like 1 or 2 or minimal single digits. So that law changed in 1965. This video is only to help us to understand the depth of issue and what happened in 1965. Now, with that idea of the video, you have a clue that the number of people that occupied USA, that were immigrants to USA and eventually occupied was from Asian and third world countries was minuscule, even a single digit, if not under a digit of 5 or 10 maximum. And therefore, the country remained somewhat Europeanized for a long time till 1965. Then if you look around for it, try to find an answer what diaspora is. That begins in 1776, when the people from UK were disgusted with their king and all that and wanted to find a new home. They took the boat and landed in Mayflower and landed in Boston area, Massachusetts, at the height of November, and hungry and starving and all that. You know all these things. And they ran into American Indians. So I just want to make sure we correct ourselves right. They are not South Asian Indians, but American Indians, and who saw these hungry buggers walking around, offered them the turkey, the animal. And people first said, try it, you will like it. And they liked it too much and eventually ended up on the lexicon that turkey is part of the time period, the November Thanksgiving time. Now, the next step we need to know is that after you immigrated to the country, we get two categories of the word in our lexicon. One is your native motherland, which in our case, for discussion's sake, is India, and the adopted motherland is the USA. And then often you would notice that the native motherland and adopted motherland are part of the lexicon now, and usually, but not always, many people do not really contribute equally to the needs of it. Undoubtedly, many people, a lot others do, and when these things are done, what happens is larger societies, larger bodies of rewarding organizations recognize this importance of this. We need to acknowledge here in 1965, Lyndon Johnson was the one who signed the paperwork, and the ambassador at the time was Chester Bowes, and then the senator from Arkansas was very useful in doing these changes. Move forward. And then what happened? In 1965, my presentation is not bound by any language and all that. I'm dead neutral. But in 1965, when the window opened up, the first group of people that really came in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds are the Telugu language speakers. And what happened was in 1965, the bulk of immigrants from India were Telugus, and why that was so was that during that time period, there was a tremendous demand for IT workers, and these people were trained in IT workers. And so lo and behold, you have the concentration of Telugu population in the USA. And the last count I checked was that we have 5.5 millions of South Asian Indians, of which almost 475,000 people are Indian immigrants who are legit with the immigration. There are other floating people, and you round it up, there are almost 500,000 of Telugu speakers. Lo and behold, one of these points was recognized by, of all the people, by the National Public Radio. And they had a program around 3 months ago, and that program emphasized the role that the Asian immigrants do, and especially focused on the Telugu immigrants. Look at this one, and later on, all of you enjoy it. At the moment, it shows that we have been talking all morning about how it is important that we spread our language and culture to all the people. And what they have done is they have taken one type case of a Telugu-speaking family in the state of Seattle, and you see that all the pictures that what we have at our homes with the puja mandir and all that are there. So take-home message for all of us is that languages are important, retaining the languages are important, and also to maintain our cultural traditions, then we can move forward. I think this people can look at it at leisure. Then some of you might have a lingering question that what happened to the Dalits, sorry, what happened to the Sikhs who came to this country are now very strong population in California. Originally, they were indentured laborers. They came as laborers to do this work and all that stuff. And once their job was over, what the country did was to put them back in the ship and say, go back. And the ship said, we will go, but they did not go. And so these Sikhs decided to land on the country in California and establish roots and wouldn't go nowhere. And then that was the birth and rise of the Gardar party. In between, I need to point out one very important contribution of Sri Ganeshram Pandit, who was an attorney in California, who for the first time defended the case of many people of Indian origin. A superior translated that to mean, his name is Sakram Ganesh Pandit. An article on his work has already been published in Brahma Bharati in BSNA. And what they changed was to change the category from being non-categorized to quotes unquote Caucasians, because they belong to the upper caste. So it ended up that a lot of them became citizens of it. And I thank the BSNA for publishing my article on Sakram Ganesh Pandit in 2019. If some of you have access to the old copies, please take a look at it. We take our hats off and acknowledge his contributions. Then the last point I want you to take home is that I have been in this country from 1965 a graduate student at Columbia University, at which time my wife, she is with the Divine World with the Lord Venkateswara. She and we were living in New York, and what was going on was that we were very poor, and as a graduate student, you get a small stipend, and we had to live. And what we used to do is on Friday afternoons and Saturdays, we used to make arrangements to cook a large pot of sambar and rice, and every graduate student, Indians, they all had a wonderful time. What does that got to do with this here? We already made this statement that we already established the fact that the #1 population in South Asian origin are the Telugus, almost 500,000. Beyond that, there were graduate students at that point in time who came there, and they all became the focus group or the catalyst for the evolution of the same thing. Then my professional line was that in 1971, I ended up teaching at the Temple University as a tenured professor. Then we had the option of setting up the first Telugu Association in 1973. That has blossomed, and now this is the 50th anniversary of the group. What has this got to do with the BSNA session and the reason why I wanted to present these facts to all of you is that we have 26 major languages, while my presentation is on the Telugus who had been from the beginning for a long time. There are other languages that are there, and many of the second and third generation immigrants to USA within the BSNA population, outside of it too, should constitute the focus groups and establish a timeline and establish a modicum of celebrating on a decennial basis the challenges for all the other language groups and so on. Notwithstanding the 26 major languages, we should also include Sanskrit and make sure that Sanskrit is spread in the same modicum, and that a focus group and evolution of that language, 26 major languages, be established with the umbrella of anybody, but most preferably, I want the BSNA to establish the modicum. One last point, if you don't do this, see what happened to this language in India, South India, mostly Tulu. If some of you are familiar with Tulu, Tulu is a language was passed on oral. You speak, you hear, you retain it. They never had a written language. It is spoken extensively in South India. Then you turn around and ask how come they are speaking and working all around it. If you are a Tulu person and lived in Maharashtra, you wrote the language in Marathi. If you're a Tulu in Tamil Nadu, you wrote it in Tamil language. And you were in Andhra Pradesh, you write the Tulu language in Telugu alphabet. What does that got to do with what I have to say? Is that unless we make the efforts through BSNA that different major languages be established as focus groups and develop timelines and celebrate and continue to do the thing. The point is we come as immigrants to this country, and when we come as immigrants to the country, we should not forget our natal motherland, that is India. At the same time, accept our adopted motherland, USA. At the same time, we should not give up and not go back into one mode or the other mode. We should have an integrated thing. That is why we are United States of America. It is a very large multi-language, multicultural focused group with only one point, that freedom for everybody. That is 1776. I think I made the major points. Unless you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer them. I hope I have been clear and lucid to tell you. One last point before I hang up, before I complete, I do take my hats off to my lovely wife, and I lost her in November 2nd, and she has been my backbone, and she supported me. Her effort, along with my other family members, I was richly rewarded. We are all richly rewarded with the recognition with the Ellis Island Medal of Honor. A picture of it is at the bottom. The bottom line for the Ellis Island Medal of Honor is that you do not forget your natal motherland. At the same time, you contribute to your adopted motherland. And I think I have made my major points. Unless you have anybody questions, I'll be very, very happy to answer. And I'm always available on email. Please reach me. And the two other minor points I want to say, conclude this presentation is, we also started focus groups with the South Asians for the National Marrow Donor Program to give gifts of life with the HLA stem cells. That's just history, wonderful. I think we were able to put almost 4,000 people on our own effort, and also people emulated the model that we had developed. And so every city, every place in the USA has it. At the same time, in 2019, we established links with the South Indian group called the Datri, D-A-T-R-I, translation of the Sanskrit word Data. There, the same HLA stem cells are harvested, and if there's a match, they will provide, and these databases are universal and accessible for everybody. I thank everybody for listening to me. Unless you have any questions specific, I'll be very delighted to answer. I acknowledge the help of BSNA for a long time. I also acknowledge the help of the Telugu Association of Greater Delaware Valley from 1973, which we were able to shepherd it along, me and my wife and my children and everybody. And not only that, the Telugu Association of North America, who gave the umbrella in 1991 to establish the first South Asian database for the HLA stem cells. That's history. I am very delighted and very happy to have been a part of it. And there have been so many other people who have helped me. Even though I may not be able to name them, I acknowledge the help of everybody. Now, my friends, I rest. Anybody have any questions? My dear young friend,
Thank you, Prithviraj.
no, 1 second, Prithviraj. Thank you very much for reading my biodata. I appreciate you. I hope one of these days you will succeed and become an MD and lead the people, because with the MD, you can do anything from being a chaprasi to a great doctor. You could be anything, but do the best. I wish you the very best.
वो जो वैलिड किया है ना बच्चे को, yes.
I rest. If you have anybody have any questions?